Hey there, toy collector friends and Transformers fans alike. Welcome back to the channel. I'm the Triple TC, that's the time travelling toy collector, and today we are looking at Autobot Seaspray as he's been re-released as a deluxe class figure, but on retro packaging. Now, this is something I'm really excited about because I never had Seaspray as a mini bot back in the day. And so this is the amalgamation, sort of uber amalgamation of a ton of nostalgia for me, because I love the... Now, obviously, it's a significantly larger cardback variation than it would have been in the day, but with the classic artwork there. But it's accommodating the deluxe figure that we see there in the bubble pack, that is Seaspray with his sort of toy accurate deco. I do wonder if we're going to get, and I imagine we will, possibly an Age of the Prime Seaspray, maybe along with a Powerglide. I'm living for a Powerglide. And then possibly some of the other mini bots that are repaints of previously released ones. I'm probably here for that, to be honest, as part of the reclamation of my long lost childhood. That's where you all say, but you're not that old. Okay, fine. So we have the wonderful packaging that takes me right back to the shops of the 1980s. It really does, with that fantastic Transformers artwork there. It's a world of constant change. The text here is slightly different. It's a world of constant change where things are not what they seem. It's the world of the Transformers. Yep. So that's sort of the same kind of story, but it's not quite the text that I'm accustomed to from this sort of thing. We can see some Insecticons, some of the deluxe Insecticons that I never originally had. Shockwave, of course, Dinobots, Enforced, Jetfire, lots of Dinobot and Insecticon action, really. Very thematic there. So yeah, so just a little bit of background now. Apologies if you're a member of my Patreon, and this includes the free tier at the Patreon. Then you'll have heard me say this already, so skip forward 10 seconds by all means. But this was not the Seaspray that I ordered. This is an American import, but I do a lot of my online shopping with In Demand Toys in the UK, and they actually got an announcement through that the UK stock was delayed, which is something that's been the case for quite a few ranges latterly, mostly from Hasbro, I will say. But the US import stock was arriving, and they were giving people the opportunity to go in and cancel their UK stock order and reorder the US import, so that they could get that out to people that wanted it, which was really, I thought, considerate of them to do. So I went in and ordered a fresh one from the US American stock, but because I'm so enamored with this sort of old-fashioned retro style, which, to be fair, I didn't go after the Bumblebee, I haven't gone after the Brawn either so far, but because I've really wanted Seaspray to add to the collection, I didn't want to wait any longer. I didn't care that it was being released in the retro line first. I've kept my UK stock order open so that when the UK stock does arrive, I'll get another one sealed in the box, just because I want to keep one in the box. But what that does tell you, I hope, is that we're going to get this guy out of the box, because it's this kind of packaging. I'm going to hope that I can do it in such a way that will facilitate minimum damage to the card. But worst case scenario, I'm getting a mint one, freshly minted one, coming in when the UK stock arrives. I'm going to do the slicing and dicing off camera, purely because I want to be super careful and try not to damage the packaging. And then I'll get him out. We can look at the figure in situ. Whilst I'm doing that, if you're not already a member of the Patreon, as I mentioned, there's an entire free tier there with access to videos that aren't available directly here. You can get them just by being a free member of the Patreon tier. The link for that is down in the description below. And in the meantime, if you could like the video, that would be fantastic. And similarly, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, and again, some of these videos get upwards of 2,000-3,000 views, which I know for some people is small beer, but for me that's really amazing. To be honest, if I hit 100 views, I'm really amazed. But it's usually about 1 to 2% of those people are actually subscribed to the channel. So if you're someone who's popped in for the day, and I'm very grateful that you have, but you haven't yet subscribed, please do. It makes a huge difference to me and to the channel, and that's why you hear so many of us say it, is because it really does help promote the channel and get more views. It's not monetized, this channel, so it's purely for the love of it that I do it. So it, you know, in the same way that other people get up on stage or stand on street corners, maybe not that one, to you know, create. It's just nice to have someone seeing it. So anything you can do around that is fantastic. Anyway, without further waffling from me, let's go and get Seaspray out of the box. And here we are with Seaspray freshly out of the box. Wasn't too traumatic, it had its moments. If you want to see me do an unboxing of Seaspray and the process that I went through to try and get him out cleanly, then again, check out the Patreon. There is a video available showing that on there, which should be up by the time you're watching this. Seaspray comes with a very small, what looks like very small instructions, but actually, oh, I've dropped them. They're actually quite thick. There's quite a lot here. It's quite a hefty piece. So in the old days, of a mini bot, you usually have 3 or 4 transformation steps on the back, and that was it. But of course, here we're in a very different world. We're in the world of deluxe class transformers, and I have to say, I love this. I love this figure. I love everything about him and the little wobbly bits. The head sculpt is fantastic, very toy, from what I remember, very toy accurate. I love the grille, I love the visor. I even love the fact that we've got these here. I think they kept them obviously for, I think, the last iteration we had of Seaspray, which was sort of before my time collecting wise. But they had them slightly swept backwards a bit. The detailing on his torso, very nice. Some painted applications there. Again, some painted apps there. The blue, the yellow, and the sort of white / gold, grey really works on this figure. It really does. Again, you've got nice head articulation there. We've got waist articulation, which is lovely to see on a deluxe, and you can't always get it on a Voyager. No comment. He's got some wrist articulation up and down, so not sure what he'll be doing with that gesture, but he can do it. And ironically though, he can't go, there's no other wrist articulation, so he can only go up and down with those, which, you know, is fine. We've looked at the waist. We can get some nice outwards articulation, forwards, down, just over 90 degrees, and you get all of the articulation you would hope to get. It's relatively basic, but you know, it does what it does the job. It does what it needs to do. It's got some nice ankle articulation. He's got a knee there that also locks, so you've got stability. And he comes with this little blaster, which is very, very nice, and he grips that quite nicely there. And he's got some quite nice dynamic posing potential. You know, we can do some nice things with this kind of model, which I'm, you know, always a bit of a fan of. I'll tell you what, and some of you will know this already, what I'm not a bit of a fan of is when there's no Autobot insignia. And currently, in his robot mode, oh, there's another bit of plastic. Sorry, I missed that. That was some of the plastic that stores it inside. So when I was taking it out, in my eagerness, I completely missed that bit. I do apologise. Not the same on both sides, no. Okay. But yeah, so he does have some really nice robot articulation, and I really like it. I think he's not. I was going to say stocky, but he's not stocky. He's solid. He's robust. You can see there, nothing is loose. Nothing's jiggling about that you don't want to jiggle about. Even the gun's not going anywhere. So you know, he looks very much the part. He looks every inch the Autobot that we know he is. He just doesn't seem to have, you know, an Autobot symbol on display in his robot mode. So, you know, disappointing, but can't always help it. A little bit of hollow spaces up towards the inside of his shoulders, sort of his upper arms, and some shades of hollowness around here. But to be fair, the mechanical detailing, do love some mechanical detailing, around his legs sort of mask that by making it look a bit like it's mechanical detailing. And again, I don't know about everybody else, and I'd love to hear down in the comments below, but I don't collect these necessarily for their modern aesthetic. I collect them because that's probably a lie, actually. I think the modern aesthetic really appeals to me. I'd be lying if I said I didn't acknowledge that. But what I love about this range, and the fact, I mean, I'm sort of assuming he's a preemptive minor retool probably around the head, maybe minor repaint as possibly of a future Age of the Primes figure, where he's released in perhaps a more cartoon accurate, or in a more, I don't know, more Age of the Primes-y kind of vibe. This is very much the sort of classic Minibot look. Except, of course, in the original, his legs were immobile. They were a single item. They were a single piece. They couldn't move. Just like everything else. Like so many of those, you know, like so many of the original Minibots back in the 80s. The articulation was pretty much non-existent. So everything we get with these sort of iterations of these figures, I absolutely am here for. And I love that they are bringing that G1 aesthetic, which is what I would classify this as, to life in an Age of the Primes, Transformers Legacy, Transformers whatever, Earthrise, you know, Kingdom, Siege, all of that sort of engineering that's being brought to bear gives us those G1 characters and that G1 aesthetic, but up to date. And I think that is always the fine line that we walk along, isn't it, with these sorts of things? Because there are those who go, oh yeah, but it's not very G1. Well, if it was very G1, a bit like the aerial bots, if it was very G1, they wouldn't move. You wouldn't have any physical articulation or posability of any great note. The robot mode was secondary, and it all serviced the vehicle mode. So, you know, I do understand people's preference for what they grew up with, let's say, and that may be for some people, most people I would imagine, watching this G1, but it also means it might be for some people G2, or it might be Beast Wars, or it might be, you know, Power of the Primes might be the first thing that they engage with Transformers. So, you know, whatever your entry point is, that tends to be what your aesthetic is, because that's what connects you to that point in your life when you were first introduced to Transformers, and it feeds into that nostalgia. So, you know, I'm really here for how he looks here and now today. I love his posability in robot mode. I don't think I showed you, so I'm just going to do it very quickly. We do get tech specs on there. You can see this is the international import, but you can still read the American. You can still read the bit in English there. Be unyielding as the ocean waves, and your enemy shall fall. And there his tech specs. A bit unfortunate that this covers some of his tech specs info, but you know, it could probably be steamed off if that was your vibe. But yeah, so here we have Seaspray in his robot mode, and now I shall endeavour to transform him into his vehicle mode. Don't touch that dial. And here we are with Seaspray all transformed up into his hovercraft mode. And I've got to be honest, again, the transformation is pretty straightforward, pretty simple. There are some aspects in following the instructions where it's not quite clear. And I think, I don't know whether the instructions are wrong or it's my interpretation of them, but there's a bit where you have to sort of fold the legs up and in. And it does look a bit at odds in the certainly my reading of the instructions. It almost felt like it was backwards. But again, once you work out, I always if I get to a position like that, I tend to go a couple of steps ahead to look at what I need to arrive at and go, okay, now let me reverse engineer some of that thinking and see if I can get to that. my own way. And that's kind of what I've done here to an extent. And there's a little bit of an issue with where the front of the hovercraft is. It doesn't quite like to stay tabbed in. And I'm hoping to goodness it won't come untabbed whilst we're looking at him. Because up close, he does exude G1 Minibot alt mode. His little hovercraft is really quite lovely. We finally get an Autobots insignia there on that lovely silver. It's almost vac metal, but it isn't. But it almost gives that sense that it is a bit vac metal. I love the surface detailing. I love the homage to the original G1 design, where that's just where his legs were and sort of is now. I love the propellers on the back. Head's kind of just sort of tucked there, but you know, if you didn't know it was his head, you wouldn't know it was his head. It's a bit, there's not a lot going on round the back, to be perfectly honest. It kind of not lets the side down a bit, but yeah, the back's a little bit absent in terms of getting on board with the dressing up as a hovercraft kind of game. But the rest of it, I think, looks really great. I meant to check, but I don't think, no, there's no wheels, so he can't actually roll along. But he does look, you know, I can't take away from the character here. He looks really good in this mode. And you might go, I don't know that he looks really good, but actually he looks really good for an homage to a G1 figure. And that's what they've delivered. They've delivered a sort of retro G1 Seaspray in his pretty much accurate G1 colours, doing what he does as G1, which is, you know, not just the lying down, holding his own legs. There's a little bit of that, but he does actually look like a competent modern version of that classic Seaspray toy. I would know that my, you know, 8-9-year-old self would understand this was Seaspray. His gun does tab in there. There are other ports around the side, but that's the most logical place to tab it in, so I've just put it in there and left it. But I think he looks really nice. I think he's a really, really lovely figure. I don't know that there's too much additionally to say. I think he's going to look great alongside my other mini-bots. I'm in the throes of planning and developing a new display system, because unfortunately at the moment I've got quite a few of my collection having to go back into their boxes because I don't have an appropriate space to sort of have them on a semi-permanent display. I like to rotate collections around a bit, but it's also nice to have some things, you can rotate what they look like, but it's nice to have them out, you know, because you love having them, so having them out on display would make sense. So currently, yeah, I'm underdeveloped in my storage, in my display space. So I found a couple of some nice cabinets that I'm going to go for. You don't need to know, you don't care about this. But yeah, but it also means then if I do any videos which are more sort of lives, etc., where it's more me talking with you folks rather than you looking at a toy in the camera, it'll make the backdrop a little bit more attractive, hopefully, because it'll be they self-illuminate and they'll have a range of things in there. So I'm looking forward to doing that. So I think Seaspray definitely deserves a slot on anyone's shelf. If you're a fan of the G1 aesthetic, if you're a fan of what Hasbro and Takara Tomy are doing so well with their realization of the classic toys in modern engineering formats. So again, if you kind of are enjoying the new Age of the Primes aerial bots, for example, I'll pick them over the Constructicons for reasons, then I'm expecting you would like this. You would like how this works. I certainly do. I think it's a lot of fun, which ultimately is what you want. You want a lot of fun. Otherwise, what is the point? What is the point of any of it if it's not a lot of fun? So it just remains for me to thank you for sticking with me for the last 20 minutes or so, looking at this beautiful addition to the Transformers family. Seaspray finally back, realised in some fantastic plastic to join his ARC mates in my somewhere between Studio Series 86 and the Age of the Primes / Legacy / War for Cybertron ranges, where they really did start to go back to that G1 aesthetic and and make it work with modern engineering, which I think is really what drew me back into collecting. I don't know about yourselves. If you do have any thoughts on the figure, let me know in the comments down below. As mentioned, it'd be great if you could join me over on the Patreon. You'll also see me doing the unboxing of the uncarding, whatever you want to call it, of this over on that channel as well. And it just remains for me to say that I really do hope to see you in a future, or of course a past video, and that things of beauty really are toys forever. Take care. Bye bye for now.